And welcome again to the Unfound Podcast Channel on YouTube. I am, of course, Unfound's host, Ed Densler. I hope everybody is having a great day. Before I get into this map analysis for the disappearance of William Charles Jones, otherwise known as Chuck, please give this video a thumbs up. If you are not yet a subscriber to this channel, please hit the little square there, the red square down in the bottom right-hand corner. And there are a variety of ways that you can contribute to what we do here at Unfound at patreon.com, right here on YouTube, PayPal, and you can join the discussion group on Facebook, like the page on Facebook. We also have an Instagram account, and the newly refurbished website, theunfoundpodcast.com. All right, this is for the disappearance of William Charles Jones. This is an episode that came out on October 24th of 2025. So what you're looking at right there in the middle of the screen with the little red dot, that is what is known, as you can see the name right there, the SEM Villa. I'm guessing being that SEM it's all capitalized. It stands for something. I will admit, in doing this episode, I did not look up to see what that stands for. I don't think that's relevant anyway. But that is SEM Villa. That is where Chuck was living at the time. You could call it some kind of assisted living facility. Of course, understanding that Chuck was only 48 years old. But for some reason, I guess he thought he needed it, or people around him thought he needed it, and it's still somewhat unclear how he did end up there. But he had been there for a little while, at least a few years before this disappearance happened. So he went in there maybe in his mid-40s, something like that. But you should know that this is not the only SEM facility there. You can see SEM Laurel, SEM Terrace, SEM Haven. Maybe you have different levels of care. Maybe it's just they have so many people wanting to get into this place, they had to build additional buildings and things. I don't know. And I'm not sure if these other buildings were there at the time. But he was at SEM Villa, which is this one right here where the red dot is. Now, as you heard in the interview that I did with Jeff Heggie from the Milford Police Department, you see this river right here, the Little Miami River. It is right there. Got to look at it. If you've watched these videos before, you know that that is always going to be something that catches my eye when we're looking at disappearances where it does not seem like foul play is the most likely correct answer. Very well still could be for Chuck's and many other cases that don't look like it, but it's right there. As has been expressed to me by more than one person, more than just Jeff, other people who know this area well, it's not, though, an easy walk, even though it's very close from SEM Villa to the water. There is some sort of I don't want to call it a cliff, but it's very steep from up here where the buildings are down to the river, probably because the river has cut a little valley in here over time, over thousands of years. Does that mean it's this like this the whole way down going south here? I don't know. There is this golf course here. Is it right on the edge of this little cliff or slope right here? Maybe. But up here around where SEM Villa is, it's very close. Let's see, it's what, 500 feet from the building to the water if you go straight at it. But even if, I mean, it's right there. We can see that. Now, some other things that Jeff mentioned during the interview is that eventually this Little Miami River joins with the East Fork Little Miami River. All right, so we got a lot of waterways in this area. They come together, and I think this all eventually, I think, goes down to the Ohio River, And then you see down here, there's, it's twisting and turning. And I think this of course, all this water eventually goes to the Mississippi River and then out into the Gulf of whatever you want to call it. So what Jeff mentioned was that at the time in this area, and he actually did some research on it, and I give him all the credit in the world. Most people do not do that. Even though it's called the Little Miami River, at the time of Chuck's disappearance, it was flowing pretty heavily because of there was snow and then it started to melt. Not unusual for this time of year in Ohio. This river was probably at its deepest point 11 feet deep. Pretty deep. Pretty deep. And flowing very fast. So even of somebody of Chuck's size, if he went into the river, probably swept away fairly quickly. The issue, though, in addition, is that this other, as Jeff talked about, this other river was also at flood stage, something along those lines. And it also had a lot of force and weight behind it. And so when these two rivers come together, it just gets even worse. And I'm guessing we had some flooding. It went over the banks down, through this area. This also would make it very difficult to start to try to pinpoint if Chuck went into the river, where did he end up, if his body even stopped. I guess it's conceivable if he went into the river that it could have been pushed the whole way down to the Mississippi River, conceivably. And in fact, I remember maybe a few months ago talking about maybe more toward the St. Louis area of the United States, where somebody went missing allegedly into a river and it was found way, 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 way downriver. So this is something that we have to be aware of. I'm not saying that happened, but this just shows you how difficult it is. Now, regarding the island, I'm not sure what island Jeff is talking about. Maybe it's this one right here. That would make the most sense. There is a little island up here by Semvilla, at least at the time that the satellite photo was taken, which I think is fairly recently. But I don't think that's the island he's talking about. I think he's talking about this island right here, probably because this is where the two rivers come together, and this island was probably generated when the two rivers come together. The clash of both currents slows the water down at least a little bit, and the silt starts to drop, and that's how an island like this would get made. So I'm guessing it's that island, and it also helps that there's not maybe this. I think maybe is an island right here, but it does seem going down here downstream. The river does really narrow. From up in this area, it's almost even a little hard to see once you get over here. So this is probably the island, but you have to understand something like this. This isn't an island like when you think about down in the Caribbean or something, that it's pretty much the same all the time. When you have an island like this in a river with all the debris and silt and the varying of the current, this island could get bigger, it could get smaller. And if there was anything, whether it's a human body or something else, it could get buried very easily, very quickly. It would not be obvious that something was there due to the way the geometry and the physics and everything works in this area when two rivers come together. So I think that's what Jeff was talking about in his interview with me. We also, though, have to keep in mind, if Chuck did walk off, he did talk about swimming in the river, which sounds dangerous. But I also asked him about this area to the east, and this is the area that I'm talking about over here. It was searched. We know that means something, but it doesn't mean everything. Something else to consider. It very well could be that Chuck dropped the stuff off and walked off to go to a store in this area and just wandered off by accident. Something happened, course, he did have some mental health issues. But I think also what's important, though, is conceivably if he walked far enough, he could have gone to this river over here instead of this river, and that might change the attitude toward this disappearance totally. That you're looking for him in this river over here and finding nothing, when it's possible he could have walked over here. It seems a lot less likely, but still. So we have two rivers, kinda, not just one that has to get everybody's attention here. But you can see why this has been the big talk regarding Chuck's disappearance, since it happened in 2009. No proof that he did this. I realize we talked about footprints and snow and everything, but what I took from what Jeff said is that even if there were footprints of anybody, they could have melted and then there was more snow. Just because they didn't see any footprints when they started looking into this doesn't mean somebody like Chuck could not have gone down to the water and gone into the river. So, and we also have to keep in mind a lot of private property, especially like this golf course. And we know how it is when it comes to searching areas like this. Even heard Jeff say he has not used it. There haven't been any warrants or search warrants or subpoenas or anything like that. So I'm guessing a lot of the private property in this area has not been searched. And we know that when that's not done, that could be where Chuck is. How many times does that happen? And enough that it gets our attention that private property is not allowed to be searched or isn't searched for whatever reason, and that's where a person's body ends up being. Just some things to keep in mind. So there you go. That is the map for the disappearance of William Charles Jones. We referred to him as Chuck in the interview. He went missing in early 2009. This is an episode, once again, that came out on October 24th of 2025. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching, and we will do this again sometime soon.